Hi and welcome to my introduction to A-level media at Crampton House. I'm going to go through a little list that I've got for some of the key elements to do with the course. In the first few weeks of the course, you'll be doing an introduction to the media and what actually media is, which is something that when we've taught this in the past, students tend to think they know what it is, but actually when you strip it all back, what is the media? And that's what we tend to look at. We like to move students away from this idea that they are passive consumers and move them to being active consumers, which is something you will get used to once we start studying the different elements of the media. It's something that, I'm not going to lie to you, will change the way you look at the world, change the way you look at the news, change the way you look at television, change the way you look at film, so be aware of that. But it's a good warning, it's not scary, it's something that will make you look at things differently. Also, we go through the course content, which I'll talk a little bit more about a bit later on in my talk. We go through the different papers. We've got a paper 1, we've got a paper 2, and we've got an NEA, which is a piece of coursework that you've got to do as well. But again, I'll talk a bit more about that a bit later on. In terms of assessment for this course, there are 2 papers that you study. They're worth 35% each. Paper 1 is about media messages, where you study the news, you study magazines, you study music videos, and you study advertising too. And paper 2, it's called Evolving Media. We study Minecraft, the computer game. We study the Jungle Book, the 1967 Jungle Book, and we also study 2 TV dramas. The first one we look at is Stranger Things, which is a television program on Netflix, which lots of you probably will have seen. The other one we like to compare it to is Deutschland 83, which is a German language television show. We study episode 1 of both, and then we compare the representation in them. You will also look at the BBC One breakfast show on paper 2 as well. Aside from that, you do 30% on an NEA. The NEA is essentially what coursework used to be. You get a brief in March. We never know what the brief is. They follow a similar format, but we don't actually know what they are. They give you an idea, an ideology to look at, and then you have to produce 2 bits of media to meet the brief. Usually one of the pieces of media will be a website, so you produce a working website with 2 pages, contents and 1 other linked page, and then you'll do something along the lines of either a film short, a TV extract or a magazine. This year they introduced a music video in there too, which was really interesting and something you might want to think about doing. In terms of homework, lots of students ask about homework with media. Lots of the homework we ask you to do at media is independent things, consuming products. Some people call it watching films, watching television, reading newspapers, but it's more than that. You're making those notes, you're looking at things in more depth. We'll provide the framework and you'll be the people who will actually pull apart these products. Sometimes it'll be exam questions that will be similar to what you might have done in English, for example, or in history. Sometimes it'll be those exam questions so we can mark them and give you feedback, but lots of it will be independent research, something that you would do if you went on and did that at university or even other subjects at university. In terms of trips in media, we like to take students to Media City in Salford Quays. We also have offers to go to Pinewood Studios in London, so that's something we'll look at. Also, we'd like to branch that out into things like cinema trips. In terms of transition and how you can prepare for A-level media, you'll be provided with a transition pack from either myself or Miss Pearson, who are the 2 people who actually teach the course. And this transition pack will be some suggested activities that you can do in direct preparation for the specifics you'll be doing on the course. But I'll be honest, there's nothing specific. It's more a case of consuming different products, watching different films, but not just the films you might be traditionally used to watching, but looking at more independent films, looking at different newspapers that you've not looked at, checking out different bits of social media that perhaps you've not even used before, looking at music videos, but ones that you might not like, ones that have a message, ones that have narrative. So really some suggestions about things that you might do in preparation to coming to us. In terms of progression from year 12 in the first few weeks, that was something I mentioned earlier. You'll be progressing from looking at the framework of media into doing your NEA in March, and then doing each little segment of media individually, leading up to March in year 13, where you'll end your NEA, and then it'll purely be exam preparation for you, okay? But lots of this will be the teachers providing you with theoretical frameworks and you doing the legwork for this. We very much want to foster that independence going forward. In terms of a typical lesson, it will really depend on which unit we're studying. So for example, if we're doing the TV drama unit and we're looking at Stranger Things, we might take out a segment of that show, maybe 10 minutes, and analyse that in one lesson and go into depth about everything, watching it, rewatching it, looking at the costumes, looking at the representation, looking at the ideologies, looking at the atomic family that's presented in there. We're looking at lots of different things. If it was newspaper, we might just throw newspapers in front of you and say, what do you think? And we might do it very much through discussion. Some lessons are done like lectures. It depends what unit and what the need is of the class, but there are lots of different varieties and ways that we will do that for you. Going forward, the skills that media will provide you with is very much an analytical platform for you to look at the world. Even if you don't go on to do media at university, you will be able to use these skills, these analytical skills, these discursive skills to transfer onto whatever course that you might do, whether that be something media based or not. With all that in mind, we look forward to meeting you whenever you want to start here, September, next year, whenever it is, but we very much want to have you on board. See you then.